working out in a gym.
I think the age decides it. I mean, I'm getting on for, coming up for 39, and we wouldn't be able to tour the States now for another 2 or 3 years, and I'm not going to do it when I'm 42. It's hard work staying in good shape. It really is. And I just don't want to go downhill. I think it's great to end on top. You know? I mean, what are the Stones going to do now? And feel the state of Utah? I mean, how can they top what they've done? It's crazy.
Was this your decision, Pete's decision, or how was it actually arrived at?
It's really my decision, along with, I mean, when Pete got ill last year, I felt a bit responsible for that because it was me that dragged him back on the road.
Right, and I think you were always wanting to go touring and he wasn't wanting to go touring.
Yeah, that's it. And I think the touring had something to do with him getting into drugs and the booze. So I'm really glad that it's finishing. Yeah, Christ, I don't want to lose another band member just because we've been selfish enough to keep the man on the road for the rest of his life. It's not worth it, you know, it really isn't.
I desperately want to be seen for what I really am. So I overcompensate.
Which is what?
Well, I suppose I open up too much. You know, I tell too much about what I'm really about. I tend to sort of treat interviews as very much as confessionals rather than as anything else. And because I'm always trying to bring myself down off the plateau that people are putting me on to some extent. And that's why I would never leave England, because I feel that over here I'm treated as you know, a piece of plastic product. And in Britain, people just think of me as Pete Townsend. You know, sometimes he's up and sometimes he's down. I never want to see a big arena again. You know, these places weren't built for rock and roll. They weren't built for music. Maybe they were built for rock and roll. Maybe rock and roll has become like baseball and ice hockey. You know, I mean, I don't feel right when I come off...
Too safe, too predictable?
Well, I don't know about safe. I was just going to say, I don't feel right when I come off with The Who unless there's blood flowing from some orifice of my body. You know what I mean?
I hate the bloody road. I love the stage. So, I mean, it's only the road that's just going to disappear. And, I mean, I've had a gutful of that. I really have. I mean, we've been doing it for 20 years, and unlike the Stones, who went into exile for 7 or 8 of those 20 years, we've been doing it for those 20 years. And I really have had a gutful. I mean, it really is, it's unnatural. And when you get families, it becomes even more unnatural.
Daltrey and Townsend are both married with families, which is why they want to come off the road, but still make records and give the occasional Who concert. John Entwistle loves the touring.
I get most of my satisfaction from playing on stage. Although I may look bored to tears on the stage, I really enjoy it. I enjoy playing to an audience. I mean, to me, being a rock musician is showing off to an audience.
Their idea at the moment would seem to be that this is the last tour, but there would be the occasional show, and that would be a way of keeping it going. You wouldn't do that?
I'm not prepared to sit around and wait for the occasional gig to be thrown at me. I'd rather find another way of getting on stage continually, or at least like 6 months of the year.
So if you won't do that, there really is the end of it?
Yeah, there's a definite end in sight.
The trouble is with John, he never tells anybody else what he feels. We have a meeting with a group, and it'll be Pete and I talking, and the other two sit there like, you know, dummies. And then we find out how John feels through the press, which is all totally wrong. And I really don't think John's thought it through. I don't think he really thinks of where the Who should go, what the Who should say, or anything. Just what John Entwistle wants, which is not particularly good for the Who.
So
maybe.
He hasn't told you any of this?
No.
Stuck in the middle is the manager. The Who have been almost legendary for their bickering and disputes among themselves. What have they been like to manage?
Pretty difficult. I don't...
Are you a sort of referee between all the different factions?
Yeah, I suppose I am. I suppose I've got the deciding vote. If we reach a stalemate and it's 2 against 2, it's always been felt that I should have the deciding vote. But it does get quite explosive sometimes. We've had our fights. You just, I don't know, I suppose I'm just as crazy as them in some ways, you know, to be doing it. Because it affects your whole life.
The Who made good records, particularly in the 60s and early 70s, but they'll be remembered most for their live performances. Next year, if this really is the end, there'll be farewell shows in Europe and Britain. But what will they do themselves without The Who?
Well, I'm getting more into the acting. I'm working for Jonathan Miller for the Beeb next year.
Doing what?
The Beggars Opera, which is quite interesting. And there's a film I'm going to hopefully direct next year.
So what are you going to do with yourself now, then?
I don't know, and I don't care, basically.
Really?
Yeah. I'll be so pleased. I mean, I've really quite, at the moment, my sentiments is that I want to get as far away from rock and roll as possible.
Looking back over all those 20 years, what are you most proud of in all that?
Staying alive.
Robin Densole with New York's Farewell to the Who. Now, tomorrow's weather...